want you to stop for a moment before you read another chart, before you place another order to your broker, before you spend another hour hunched over your ledgers, wondering why nothing seems to work. I want you to stop and listen. Because what I am about to tell you is something most traders never hear, not from their brokers, not from their trading partners, not from the men they overhear trading stories with at the brokerage house counter. And the reason they never hear it is because it is uncomfortable. It is the kind of truth that makes a man sit back in his chair and go very quiet. But it is also the only truth that will ever set him free from the cycle he is stuck in. My name is Jesse Livermore. In my lifetime, I made and lost several fortunes in the financial markets. I started with almost nothing, rose to become one of the most feared speculators in America, and learned lessons that cost me more than most men will ever earn in 10 lifetimes. And today, I am going to give those lessons to you. So stay with me, because the next few minutes may be the most important conversation you have ever had about your trading career. Let me ask you something. And I am asking this not as a challenge, but as someone who has walked the very same rocky road you are walking right now. How long have you been trading? 6 months? A year? Longer? And in that time, how honest are you being with yourself about your results? Because here is the thing about traders. We are a proud breed. We do not like to admit when something is not working. We blame the broker. We blame the market conditions. We blame the news out of Washington, or the crop reports from Kansas, or the shipping figures out of New York Harbor. We blame the tip that turned out to be bad. We blame bad luck. But deep down in that quiet place, a man visits when no one else is watching. He knows the losses are not random. He knows there is a pattern. And he suspects, even if he has never said it out loud, that the pattern has something to do with him. He is right. And today we are going to face that together. Here is what we are going to cover. We are going to talk about impatience, the invisible force that drains a trading account every single week, and why it disguises itself as confidence so well that most traders never even see it. We are going to talk about capital, and I am going to flip the way you think about a small account completely upside down. We are going to talk about comparison, that slow poison a man drinks every time he measures himself against another trader's reported results. We are going to talk about the one moment that destroys more trading accounts than any market crash ever could. The moment a trader breaks his own rules. And we are going to talk about the single habit that separates traders who improve from traders who repeat the same mistakes for years without ever understanding why. By the end of this, you will not just understand why you are losing. You will have a clear and honest picture of what to do about it. Let us begin. Chapter 1. Impatience. The killer that looks like confidence. Let me paint a picture for you. You arrive at the brokerage house in the morning. The ticker tape machine is already running. You can see the tape feeding through, numbers printing, prices moving. A setup is forming in the instrument you've been watching for days. Your chest tightens. Your hand moves toward the telephone, and then that voice starts. Get in now. It is about to move. If you wait, you will miss it. So you call your broker, you place the order, and almost immediately the price moves against you. You hold. You tell yourself it will come back. You have seen this before. The voice grows louder. Just wait. You read this right. The move is coming. It does not come. The position gets worse. Finally, the pain is too much. You close the trade. You take the loss. And then sometimes within hours and sometimes within days, the move you predicted actually happens. Without you. Tell me honestly, how many times has that exact story played out in your trading? Because I know that feeling. I lived that feeling over and over again in my early career. And it was not until I truly understood what was happening that I was able to stop it. What was happening was not bad luck. What was happening was impatience. And impatience in trading does not look the way most men think it does. It does not look like laziness or carelessness. In fact, impatience often looks like its very opposite. It looks like decisiveness. It looks like courage. It looks like the action of a man who is not afraid to move while others hesitate. That is what makes it so dangerous. Here is what impatience actually is in trading. It is the gap between when your method says to enter and when your emotions say to enter. That gap, that small, seemingly harmless gap, that is where most trading accounts quietly bleed to death. Think about it this way. Imagine you are a hunter. You have tracked your animal across 2 days of hard country. You know its pattern. You know its timing. You have positioned yourself in exactly the right place. And then before the animal is close enough, before the shot is clean, you pull the trigger. You miss, not because you were wrong about the animal, not because you lacked the skill, but because you could not wait one more minute. That is the impatient trader. Every single time, the market was going where he thought it was going. The analysis was correct. The only mistake was the timing. And that one failure of patience turned a winning trade into a losing one. Now here is where it grows even more painful. Impatience compounds. When you take a loss from an impatient entry, what do you feel? Frustration, humiliation, the desperate need to make it back. And what does that need do? It makes the next trade even more impatient. You enter a cycle where each impulsive loss creates the emotional pressure that causes the next impulsive loss. And before long, you have had a week or a month of losses that all trace back to a single cause. You could not wait. In my own early years, I once placed a position in cotton on nothing more than the feeling that the move was imminent. I had heard whispers at the brokerage house. I had watched the tape for 2 days, but the tape had not confirmed what I suspected. Not yet. I entered anyway. The position moved against me immediately. I held for 3 days, convinced I was right. The losses grew to a size I could not absorb at that point in my career. I finally exited at a loss that set me back months. 1 week later, cotton did exactly what I had expected. I had been right about the market. I had simply been wrong about my timing. And that one impatience cost me more than a wrong read ever had. Let me share something that changed my trading forever. I developed a rule, a simple rule. Before I entered any trade, I had to be able to clearly answer one question out loud. What is the exact signal my method requires, and is that signal present right now? Not close, not almost. Not it looks like it is setting up. The exact signal, present, confirmed. If I could not answer that question clearly, I did not place the order. That one rule alone saved me from more losses than any other principle I ever developed. Here is your first challenge. The next time you feel the urge to enter a position, pause. Put both hands flat on the desk and ask yourself that question. What is the exact signal my method requires? And is that signal present right now? The answer will tell you everything you need to know. Chapter 2. Little Capital. Why your small account may be your greatest advantage. Now let us talk about something almost every struggling trader believes is his core problem. Not enough money. If I just had a larger account, I could trade properly. If I had more capital behind me, I would not have to risk so much on each position. If I just had more money, everything would be different. I heard this constantly in the brokerage houses, and I want to challenge it directly, because I believe this thinking is not just wrong, it is actively harmful to a trader's development. Here's why. A large account does not give you better judgment. It gives you more room to be undisciplined. Let me show you with a story. Picture 2 traders at rival brokerage houses on the same street. The first man has $500. It is everything he has saved over 2 years of work. Every trade he places, he feels the weight of that in a way that is almost physical. There is no room for casual risk. There is no room for letting a losing position run just a little longer. There is certainly no room for adding to a position that is already moving against him. His small capital forces him to be precise. It forces him to take only the cleanest setups because he cannot afford the lessons that come from taking mediocre ones. It forces him to cut losses immediately because every dollar lost is a dollar he cannot get back. It forces him, in other words, to develop the habits of a professional operator. Now the second man has $5,000. He feels comfortable. He feels insulated from small mistakes, and because of that insulation, the precision disappears. He holds losers a little longer. He takes trades that are almost but not quite to his own standard. He adds to losing positions because, after all, he has the capital to wait it out, does he not? And that feeling, that dangerous, comfortable feeling that there is room to absorb a mistake, that is where discipline goes to die. Do not misunderstand me. I am not telling you to want to be undercapitalized forever. Capital matters enormously. You need enough of a cushion to survive normal market fluctuations without being wiped out by a single bad trade. A man who is too thinly capitalized cannot give a good trade the room it needs to develop. That is also a real problem. What I am saying is this. The size of your account is not what is holding you back right now. The quality of your decisions is what is holding you back. And if your decisions are poor with a small account, they will be catastrophically poor with a large one. The only difference is the scale of the damage. Here is a question I want you to sit with honestly. If you were handed 10 times your current capital tomorrow, would your results improve? Or would you simply lose 10 times as much, 10 times as fast? The market will find out the answer for you either way. You might as well know it now. The traders I have seen build lasting wealth from modest beginnings all shared one quality. They treated their small account as though it were already large, not by swinging for outsized gains to make it grow faster, but by applying the same discipline, the same standards, and the same rigor to a small account that the great operators of Wall Street apply to a fund of millions. They protected their capital as though every dollar were irreplaceable, because at that stage of their development it was, and in doing so they built the habits that allowed them to manage larger capital responsibly when it eventually came. The small account is not the problem, it is the training ground. Use it as one. Chapter 3. Comparison. The silent account killer nobody talks about. I want to tell you about a trap. Not a trap in the market, not a pattern in the tape. A trap in a man's own thinking, one that has destroyed more trading careers than any panic or crash in history. And most traders walk straight into it every single day without knowing it. It starts like this. You are at the brokerage house, or at the private club, or you are reading the financial pages of the newspaper, and you hear about another trader's results, a clean entry, a perfect exit, a position that doubled in a fortnight, a man who apparently called the top of the wheat market to the very day, and something happens inside you, a feeling, quiet at first, but persistent. Why am I not doing that? What is he doing that I am not? Am I missing something? Am I behind? That feeling has a name. It is comparison, and it is absolutely lethal to a developing trader. Here is why. Every man whose results you are hearing about is showing you the parts of his story he chooses to tell. He is not telling you about the 3 accounts he lost before he found his current approach. He is not telling you about the months of grinding flat performance between the celebrated wins. He is not showing you the sleepless nights or the bad years or the moments when he genuinely did not know if he would make it through. He is showing you the best version of his story, because that is the version men tell. And you sitting at your desk are comparing your complete story, including all its lows and doubts and messy reality of learning this craft, against his polished version. That comparison was never going to be fair. It was never going to be accurate. And it is never going to help you. What it will do is make you impatient, because suddenly your steady, disciplined progress does not feel like enough. Following your method and managing your risk feels too slow, too cautious, too tame compared to what other men appear to be doing. So you start pushing. More trades, larger positions, deviating from your plan in search of the kind of dramatic results you have been hearing others celebrate at the club. And the market, which does not care about your frustration or your pride, punishes you for every deviation. I have been through this myself. In my early years, I would hear about the great operators of the street. Men who seemed to move markets with a single telephone call. Men whose names were whispered with a reverence that felt almost superstitious. And I would feel that pull, the sense that I was somehow behind, that I needed to match their approach, their boldness, their willingness to take enormous positions. Every single time I traded to match another man rather than to execute my own plan, I lost, without exception, because I was not trading my method, I was trading my vanity. Here is a distinction I want you to carry with you. There is a difference between learning from other traders and measuring yourself against them. Learning is valuable. It is essential. Study successful operators. Read everything they have written. Understand their methods. Adopt principles that resonate with your own temperament, but the moment you begin measuring your results, your pace, your account size against another man's, you have shifted from learning to competing, and that competition has no finish line, because there will always be someone doing better. There will always be a larger win being discussed. There will always be a man at the club whose last month makes your last month look pale. If you make that the standard, you will never feel like you are enough. And a trader who does not feel like enough makes reckless decisions. Here is your challenge. This week I want you to step away entirely from the brokerage house. Gossip, the newspaper trading columns, and the conversations at the club about what other men made on their last position, just for 1 week. And in that week, measure yourself against one standard only: your own trading plan. Did you follow your rules? Did you take only the setups your method requires? Did you manage your risk correctly? Did you exit where your plan told you to exit? That is the only scorecard that matters, because at the end of your trading career, the market will not ask how you compared to other men. It will only show you whether you traded your own plan with discipline and consistency. Everything else is noise. Chapter 4. Breaking your rules, the most expensive habit in trading. Now we arrive at what I believe is the single most destructive pattern in all trading. Not the worst market conditions, not the most unpredictable instruments, not even leverage as dangerous as that is. The most destructive thing that happens to a trading account is when a trader breaks his own rules. And before you think this does not apply to you, let me describe what rule breaking actually looks like in practice, because it rarely looks the way a man imagines. It does not look like a trader throwing his ledger across the room and declaring he is going to abandon everything. No, it looks much quieter than that. It looks like erasing your stop-loss line on the chalkboard and redrawing it a little lower because the trade looks like it wants to turn. It looks like calling your broker before your method has given you full confirmation because you are convinced you already know what is coming. It looks like holding a position through a major news announcement even though your rules say never do that. It looks like taking a 6th trade on a day your plan says 5 is the maximum. Small deviations, reasonable seeming exceptions. Each one individually seems harmless. But here is what those small deviations actually are. They are the beginning of the end, because every time you break a rule and the trade works out, you have just taught yourself that the rule is optional, that your instinct is more trustworthy than your own system, that the exception was the right call. And every time you break a rule and the trade fails, the loss is larger than it needed to be. The damage runs deeper, and your confidence in your own method is weakened a little more. Both outcomes are destructive, in different ways. But equally so, I made this mistake myself during one of the most volatile periods I can remember. I held a losing position when my plan told me clearly to exit. I told myself the market was about to reverse. I told myself my read was right, and the market was temporarily wrong. I told myself just one more day. I ignored the rule that exists for exactly that moment. The rule that says your opinion about where the market is going does not matter. What matters is where it is right now. The position did not reverse. I held longer. The loss grew to a size I had no business carrying. And the arrogance of thinking I was smarter than my own rules in that moment cost me more than I care to name. Here is a question I want you to answer honestly right now. Think about your last 10 losing trades. In how many of those trades did you break at least one of your own rules? I will tell you what most traders find when they do this exercise honestly. The number is higher than they expected, much higher, and when they compare the size of those losses against the trades where they followed their rules completely, the pattern is impossible to ignore. Rule-breaking trades are bigger losers, almost always, because the same emotion that causes you to break a rule also causes you to hold the losing trade too long. The same impulse that made you skip your entry requirement also refuses to accept the loss and close the position. The same overconfidence that dismissed your own standards also cannot bring itself to admit it was wrong. Rule-breaking and poor loss management travel together. They are almost always found at the same scene of the damage. So what is the remedy? First, you must have rules worth following. If your trading plan is vague, if your entry conditions are fuzzy, if your stop placement is based on feeling rather than structure, then fix that before anything else. You cannot follow rules that do not exist clearly. Second, once you have clear rules, you must treat them as non-negotiable. Not usually non-negotiable. Not non-negotiable except when you are especially confident. Non-negotiable. Full stop. This does not mean your rules can never change. A good method should evolve as you learn and as markets change. But changes happen in the planning phase when you are calm and objective and away from a live position. They do not happen in the middle of a trade when you are afraid or greedy or desperate to avoid taking a loss. Write your rules down today, before you place another order, and make a commitment to yourself, not to your broker, not to your trading partner, not to any man whose opinion you respect, to yourself, that the next trade you place will follow those rules completely. And if you feel the urge to make an exception, you step away from the ticker tape first, because the trade can always wait, but the damage from breaking your rules cannot always be undone. The Skret Zevenyepen, your trading journal. The mirror that shows you what the tape never can. I want to tell you about the habit that changed my trading more than any strategy, any market read, or any piece of sound advice I ever received. It is not complicated. It will not impress anyone at the brokerage house. And almost every trader who hears about it thinks it is beneath him until the day he actually commits to it. It is the trading journal. Not a simple ledger of entries and exits and profit figures. A real journal, where you write in your own words everything that happened in each trading session. What you saw, what you thought, what you felt. Did you follow your plan or did you deviate from it? If you deviated, what exactly were you feeling in that moment? Was there a part of you that knew you were making a mistake? Or did the decision feel entirely justified at the time? When I began writing this kind of journal, I discovered something that genuinely disturbed me. I had patterns I was completely blind to. I discovered that I consistently traded too aggressively after a large winning position. The confidence from a good trade made me loose and careless, more willing to enter marginal setups, more forgiving of myself when I bent a rule slightly. I discovered that I tightened up destructively after a loss. Instead of following my method, I would hesitate on the next valid signal, waiting for more confirmation than my rules required, and missing the trade entirely. I discovered that I trade poorly on days when I have slept badly, or when I have a personal matter weighing on my mind. My patience shortens. My judgment frays at the edges in ways I could not see in the moment, but could see clearly when I read back my own words the following morning. None of this came from studying the tape. None of it came from consulting other traders. None of it came from any piece of market analysis. All of it came from studying myself. And here's the truth that most traders are not ready to hear. Your greatest edge in the market is not a better method. It is a deeper understanding of how your own mind works under the pressure of uncertainty and real money. Two traders with identical methods will get very different results. The difference will not be in the method. It will be in how each man manages himself while executing it. The journal is how you develop that self-knowledge. Start today. 1 page. Write about your last 3 trades, not just what happened in the market, but what happened in you. Then read it back the next morning. You will see something. I promise you that you will see something. Tiny point. What trading is really about. Let me be direct with you now. Most men come to trading looking for a method that works. They want the right reading of the tape, the right pattern on the chalkboard, the right combination of volume and price and timing, the right moment to call the broker. They believe that if they can just find the correct technical approach, the profits will follow as naturally as water flows downhill. And here's what years of experience taught me. The technical approach matters. Risk management matters. Your method matters enormously, but none of it will save you from yourself. A sound method in the hands of an impatient trader becomes a losing method. A proven approach in the hands of a man who keeps breaking his own rules produces nothing but confusion and loss. Sensible risk management principles are worthless to a trader who abandons them the moment a big move appears to be forming. Trading is ultimately a contest of self-discipline, not self-discipline in the vague inspirational sense that men throw around at dinner. Self-discipline in the most practical, daily, moment-to-moment sense. Can you wait for the confirmation when every instinct tells you to move now? Can you hold a winning position when part of you wants to close it and pocket the gain before the market can take it back? Can you take your stop-loss cleanly and calmly when every feeling in your body is screaming that the market is about to turn in your favor? Can you sit on your hands on a day when there is simply no valid trade available, even though you have been at the brokerage house since it opened and every man around you seems to be doing something? These are the real tests, not tests of market knowledge, tests of self-command. And here is what gives me genuine hope for every trader who has listened this far. These are learnable qualities, not talents a man is born with, not gifts reserved for those with extraordinary natural gifts. They are qualities that develop with practice, with honest self-examination, with the kind of consistent effort that most traders never sustain because they are too busy looking for a faster way. There is no faster way, but there is a way. Patience, discipline, careful management of capital, honest self-assessment through regular journaling, running your own race without being distracted by what other men at the brokerage house claim to be doing. These are not complex ideas, but they are demanding ones, and the traders who take them seriously, who genuinely commit to mastering themselves as rigorously as they study the markets, those are the traders who eventually break through. I have seen it, I have lived it, and I am telling you with the full weight of everything I earned and everything I lost and everything those losses taught me. It is possible for you, the clust, so let us come to the end of what I have been building toward this entire time. You are unprofitable, not because the market is against you. You are unprofitable because of impatience. Entering positions your method has not confirmed, driven by the fear of missing a move. You are unprofitable because of how you think about capital, believing more money would solve problems that are actually problems of judgment and habit. You are unprofitable because of comparison, measuring yourself against other men's reported results instead of against your own trading plan. And you are unprofitable because of rule breaking, making small exceptions that compound over time into large and entirely preventable losses. These are the real reasons, not bad luck, not rigged markets, not some advantage that other men have which you lack. These 4 things. And here is the most important thing I can leave you with. Knowing these things is not the same as changing them. The gap between knowing and doing is where most trading careers quietly end. Men who can describe perfectly what they should be doing, but cannot execute it when the pressure is real and the money is on the line. So I am giving you one concrete action for each of the 4 problems. For impatience. Create a written checklist of the exact conditions your method requires for entry. Before every trade you read the checklist. If all conditions are not present, you do not place the order. No exceptions. For capital anxiety, change the question you ask about your account. Stop asking, how can I grow this faster? Start asking, how can I make better decisions with what I have? Focus on the quality of your decisions. The growth follows the decisions. For comparison, step away for 1 week from all conversation about what other traders are making or losing. In that week, measure yourself only against your own rules. Did you follow your plan? That is the only question. For rule breaking, write your trading rules on paper today. Then add one final rule at the bottom. It should read, if I feel the urge to break any of the above, I will step away from the ticker tape for 15 minutes before I do anything. That 15 minutes will save your account more times than you can count. None of these are complex. They do not require capital you do not have. They do not require knowledge you have not yet earned. They do not require anything except honesty and commitment, and the willingness to treat your trading as the serious endeavor it deserves to be. Tubashitsi. The market will be there tomorrow. The question is not whether the opportunities will come. In the markets of this great country, they always come. The question is whether you will be ready for them, whether you will have built the patience to wait for the right moment, the discipline to follow your plan when every emotion pushes against it, the self-knowledge to understand your own weaknesses before the market forces you to confront them at great cost. That readiness is built today, and how you approach your next trade, and how you respond to the next loss, and how you handle the next moment when you feel the pull to throw out your rules. Because this time seems different. This time is never different, but you can be. That is the work, and it is the only work that matters. This is Jesse Livermore. Trade smart, stay disciplined, know yourself. The market respects those who first learn to respect themselves. Until next time.